Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. My name's Russell Laparre and I'm here with Dylan Bryan. We're trying to actually start our own YouTube channel primarily for Pokemon. And what we're going to be doing is trying to provide better quality TCG content for the Pokemon community. Because we deserve it, and we know you guys deserve it. The Pokemon community's always been good to me, and I think they've always been good to Dylan as well. But from what we've seen, is there's not as much highly competitive YouTube content or even Twitch content that's out there. It's starting to build up a little bit with the Sable House stream, and we just wanted to see if we can help extend that a little bit more. So what we're going to be doing is weekly chats with big name players or players that are on the rise and winning tournaments and placing high CP, all that standard stuff. People that are about to get the worlds. The second thing is we wanted to break away from a standard YouTube video where we just do an interview and give you a deck list and talk to round by round of how that's been. Someone doing that right now is Squeaky over at Team Fish Knuckles. Shout out to him. He's doing an amazing job, and I think we both really love Squeaky as a person as well as a content creator. But we were trying to divulge away from what he's doing, mainly because I feel like at a time people might just watch this video just to click on the list and copy it from there and try to improve upon it. And what we wanted to do was bring our mindsets of what we do as deck builders and as playtesting, and how we're going to take that into a competitive tournament and carry on from there. So, do you have anything to say, Dylan?
Yeah, I guess our overall goal, at least for at this point, is we're going to try and put up at least 2 videos per week. And some of the things that we might try and cover is just interviews with big name or upcoming players that might have done well in an event, and just kind of having a conversation with them rather than just hitting them with 30 questions, which, like Russ said, we're trying to move away from that. We might try and interact with the community more, kind of have newer players or average players looking to get better send us in their deck list, and then me and Russ will critique them, give constructive criticism, even if it's harsh, to try and get them to improve.
We're not afraid to unleash what our thoughts are. So if you're somewhat lighthearted, or if you take a personal stake in us telling you that your deck sucks, or we need to change 15 to 20 cards inside of it, don't send in your deck list, because I'm pretty sure I'm not one to hold back, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But if someone's critique this deck list, we're not gonna just tell you to change it without having a proper explanation. I'm gonna give you my reasonings behind everything, and hopefully when you guys send in your deck list, you don't just send us a deck list. We'd rather see everything. We want to know why you're playing this card and for what, and what meta you're expecting to play against in either a small town tournament or a big major tournament or a nationals coming up. For instance, with Trump card being gone, everyone wants to create their own little thing. If not, they're trying to find the latest and greatest that's on Burbank. And
hopefully sometime next week we'll kind of give you an example of what we're gonna do by going through a few deck lists, and then if you guys like what we do or want us to do that to your deck, then you could send them in, and then we'll do that video of that next week. And then we also want to do more color commentary over kind of big events, because sometimes they just record them and there's no really commentary, so it's kind of not as entertaining to follow the game, or there is commentary, but it's just kind of X player is searching for a Shaman EX with Ultra Ball. They're going to play their Shaman EX. Let's bring up a picture of Shaman EX and read what setup does, when the most of us already know that. It would be more. We feel like we could just make the games more interesting to watch. So we might get into that some later on, as more big events like nationals get recorded and such. I mean, nationals will probably have coverage, but maybe when if cities get recorded or states get recorded, but there's no commentary, it's just kind of on Twitch, then we might get into that.
Yeah, we also wanted to bring more of a decks to light that are inside the meta right now. And with that being said, I didn't want to just put out a deck list and then put my reasonings behind how I created this deck list. We kind of wanted to both take our mindsets and the brainstorming and everything we do into building a deck, into playtesting a deck, and trying to, teach that to our viewers. So you guys as a community grow stronger. Not saying that you guys are awful now, but there's a reason why Dylan and other high name players are constantly topping and constantly winning events. It's because they have a proper playtesting circle or they have a better mindset going into these huge tournaments. And we want to see how he got there and what makes it work, and how the overall community can improve. Going into that, I don't think there's much left for us to
yeah, that's like pretty much our introduction. So we were just gonna kind of, me and Russ like tested a lot for regionals and went to Georgia together. So we were just gonna kind of go over our playtesting process and like deck choices, and I mean like how like a lot of people know that I played Groudon Dragonite, how that came to be, and not just so that you guys can hear about it, but just so you can kind of, I don't know, apply that same thought process to like now that Lysander's trump card is banned. Like testing the new decks in the new format.
Yeah, because trump card being banned basically flips the format in half, and it splits it in a way that some people don't believe like Toad is viable at all, and then others believe that Toad's still very good. It's just hanging on and has to be played in a different way. But better resource management going on. Yeah. Either way, going into the regionals for the weekend, I think Dylan messaged me about 3 weeks to a month before Georgia happened, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and we were kind of just going back and forth with ideas like, what do you think's good? What do you like? And one of the obvious ones after watching a couple of videos over on PTCG Radio was Shaman Trev, and then Trev Toad, and these giant, like, these huge item lock decks that were so fast and just burned through like 30 cards in your first turn, and then trump card 1 or 2 turns later, in order to just keep recycling resources. And I think the mindset we had going in is, what do we like and what do we hate, which at the time was Trev. And we wanted to make sure we beat Toad, and we also beat Manectric going into the weekend.
Yeah, we thought Manectric was going to be big for some reason, and it was to an extent, but not really that much. We just thought people would like Manectric Rough Seas Garbodor because it countered Seismitoad and Rayquaza, and we heard a couple people talking about it, but it wasn't nearly as big as just Toad was.
Yeah.
So
we started adding in cards like I think your hype one was Wailord. Going into Gengar to try and use it to tank against Manectric, and utilizing your opponent's Rough Seas that they put down, so Wailord can, I think...
Yeah, like Turbo Trev evolved to Gengar Trev, yeah, and we tried to come up with a better wall, but yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. Once we left that idea behind, I think we went into Donphan.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, this all happened, like, I got to, like, Russ's house at, like, kind of, like, 11, or, like midnight, like, at Thursday. This was, like, 2 days before regionals. Like, we kind of, like, tested, like, Trev and stuff, and then we kind of, like, just dropped off, like, testing for a really long time. And then we had, like, a lot of testing to do in a very short window. So, it was, like, 2 a.m., and then we built, like, a Donphan deck. Kind of trashed it after, like,
it was horrible.
2 games.
It was a really bad deck. And then...
Yeah, Russ crushed me with, like, White Rayquaza. So
yeah,
and then
it was really bad. We were testing Dragon Rayquaza for a very long time, and that was mainly just to test its competitiveness against Toad as well as colorless Rayquaza. And then I thought the Toad matchup was gonna be awful, and then going into it, it's amazing. It was great, but as soon as your opponent dropped down a Garbodor, you basically crumbled. And there's no hope for the rest of the game once they started dropping hammers on you, and you can't use Reshiram or Hydreigon. So we kind of started to sway away from that deck. And right after playing with Donphan for 2 games, and right after just beating him over and over again with Colorless Rayquaza, I was like, hey, we have to look into a new card. And that's when Dylan, at the same time as myself, both took out the Dragonite with the Max Wind. And then
at that point, our friend just went to sleep because it was 3 a.m. and now we're talking about Dragonite, and we were building bad decks all night.
and then we basically took a standard Groudon list, and then we were like, all right, what are we doing with this Dragonite, and how can we use it to beat the Rays? And because we already know Toad is auto win, we already know Manectric is close to auto win for Groudon. It's just a complete stomp. Plus you have weakness advantage. And so we're like, all right, if we can deal with the Rays, we're good, and we're going to the tournament. But the entire time, we realized just how high risk it was, and this was a risk Dylan was willing to take. When I made it, I was like,
it's hard to set up stage 2s. Yeah, stage 2s in Groudon quickly. It's clunky. It's like the inconsistency with the rest, but I was like, got to do really well or
Yeah. So
nothing. So
we didn't want to break out the entire deck list today because I believe Dylan is writing an article for 6 prizes, and we want to make sure the entire list just gets on there. So you do know, we will tell you that Wobbuffet's in it and that Dragonite's in it as well as Groudon. So there you go.
yeah,
And
we'll probably talk about it throughout the video. So yeah.
The ride there really smooth down to Georgia regionals. Well, at least for us, we just fell asleep, and then Chris and Mark drove, and we kind of got there, and we went out to the back of the hotel, and I think we just play tested for another 4 or 5 hours. We went all the way to like 3 a.m. and just sitting there spamming games with like Groudon, Dragonite. I'm trying to make like the metric backs work, or what else I'm gonna do with Dragon Rays, and going back and forth and going back and forth. And eventually, it just came to the point where I was like, "All right, we're gonna make the call, and we're gonna run with this Dragonite idea." And it worked out perfectly for him because you finished. What was your record at the very end?
8-1, or at least day one. Yeah.
Yeah. Day one was 8-1.
Yeah.
Was there anything like special you saw the whole day or the entire day, or besides people just freaking out the fact that you're playing Dragonite and coming over and applauding to you?
I remember round 2. I went first, and my opponent flipped over a Surskit, and my mind was just like racing, like, oh my god, what plays Surskit? Maybe Tool Drop. And then so I grabbed like Landorus EX like early. My tech Landorus EX with like a Karina because I was like, all right, Landorus could do a lot of damage to Tool Drop early, like put early pressure, and then he just goes Plasma Kyurem, Basic Metal, Rock Guard, and my mind is just blown. But it ends up being like a Manectric like Kyurem like with like Aegis Slash and like just like really teched out. But it was just like just on his first turn, just seeing Plasma Rock, just like I have no idea what this deck is, but it won a game, so it was kind of scary. And then the only the game that I lost was against like a teched out Frizzy and Genesect with like Headringers and Golbat, which is just they play around Focus Sash, they Headringer your Landorus and your Groudon. There's not that much you could do, but I got lucky and won a game anyway. But other than that, a lot of games was just that was like round 9, yeah.
Yeah, that was James Hart, right?
Yeah.
In the final round? Yeah.
Yeah, that was James Hart.
He's pretty well known for
I mean, in between
BG,
that, like, there wasn't a lot of exciting games. You just, like, pick up a lot of free wins against Seismitoad and Manectric and other Groudon decks, which is kind of what the deck was designed to do. It was just a really good meta call.
Yeah, I gotcha. So, would you recommend it now in this meta upcoming to Nationals? Of course, not giving away your list or talking about the changes you're going to do and anything, but...
I mean, like, not with the Trump card ban, the format's going to change. It was more like an anti-meta thing because I built a deck to beat what I expected to what I expected to see. But with, like, upcoming, like, Nationals and stuff, I still think it's, like, a really strong play if you're, like, an international player.
Okay. And then going into day 2, what did you play?
Well, I decided to play Flygon Excelgor with large influence and encouragement from Russell because he played the deck more than me.
And then,
so why do you? I guess you could tell them more about it because like you probably I was like asking you for like some advice on how to play it, so you could go more into it.
So pretty much, Dylan comes over to me, and then we're all walking out together. We're gonna get food, and he's like, "All right, if I don't think of some like janky crazy idea that's gonna win, like he just won with Manectric Aegis Slash over in New England, then he would be like, all right, I'll settle on Flygon." So the rest of the night, he's just pitching me stupid ideas. And he's like, what do I do against this deck? What do I do against this deck? And I was like, you play 2 Wobbuffet, and you have an answer, man. And the entire deck is just teched out to beat the new, like, Archeops mindset that people are just trying to splash in everything. And then you also have, like, your Selgor to try and answer Toad. And then hopefully they just don't hit enough scoop-ups against you. I was talking so much about Flygon next to Dylan that Squeaky was right next to me, and he's got hype. And he was like, all right, Russell, you gotta send me this list because I love Flygon and I have to play it. So I sent him my list, and sadly, Squeaky ended up going 0-5 the next day. I think he was like in like the top 12, and he had a solid shot in making top 8 day 2, but going 0-5 against like Night March, Flareon, and then I think it was like back-to-back Rayquaza, and he had another weird matchup. I think it was like Givalto Archeops or something like that, and using the same list as Dylan, I think it was like -1 or 2 cards. And then Dylan ended up going, I believe you went 3-0-2 for the day?
Yeah.
And you never agreed to a tie. It just happened to work out that way. right?
Yeah,
Okay.
unintentional draws. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Anything day two that you saw that was run by like a that was just blew your mind? Like, was there anything special? Like, because we pretty much expected to see a Selgor Trev, Yveltal Archeops,
I
and
felt
then
like I looked down the table and I saw
yeah,
like almost every single deck was different. I was like, oh, there's two of the same deck over there, but it was like expanded. Everybody just kind of played whatever they thought was good in theory. Nobody really had time to test, and it was just kind of a giant mishmash. So
gotcha.
I mean, maybe like more Seismitoad and Yveltal variants than like other variants, just because people are more comfortable with that. But it
Yeah,
was everything.
but the entire night I was pitching to you, Flygon can answer everything in its own way.
Yeah,
All you have to do is get the correct setup, or not prize this particular card, and you should be good.
yeah,
And you were able to actually beat Archeops Toad with a turn one, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, turn one, Quaking Punch, Archeops, and with Wobbuffet I was still able to. I evolved two Pokemon with one Wobbuffet, and then the next time I got like a Vibrava and a Dusclops, and then the second Wobbuffet it was like disgusting. It was like Excelgor, Flygon, Dusknoir, and I think and some like random fourth evolution, and the other guy was just like wow. And then I moved all the damage to Archeops and killed it, and the game was pretty much locked. I mean, sometimes the deck doesn't set up because it is stage 2. It's just kind of like Dragonite. It's a risk in that sense. But with Tropical Beach, it's a little bit easier.
Gotcha. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
How top 8 play out?
Top 8, I got pretty much a free win against a Raichu Landorus deck. There's not too much they can do. I even won with both my Excelgors prized, and when he used Landorus EX to kill my Mr. Mime with a Lysander on turn 1. And even with both Excelgors prized and no Mr. Mime, I was still able to. He got down to 1 prize, but Flygon was still strong enough just with Mewtwo and Sand Slammer damage.
Gotcha.
Like, there's not much they could do if they fill up their bench. Raichu punishes them.
Yeah.
And then I had a really close game against like Kyle Sablehouse. It was the first game I pretty much I did set up and like he slowed me down a little bit, but I feel like I won pretty convincingly. And game 2 I started to set up and it looked like I was ahead, but then I just kept whipping Flygon because I prized a couple of them, and I kept whiffing Excelgor off like ends and choruses. It's like very frustrating because you just kind of keep shuffling and drawing and using Tropical Beach, but if you whiff for so many turns, eventually they just keep cycling through their deck and healing the damage with Super Scoop Up, and then they slowly catch up.
Yeah.
So it was like a long game, and it was like I guess it was frustrating to lose because I felt like I was so close to setting up and beating him, but he beat me. And then game 3, there wasn't much time left, but he got like a very fast Quaking Punch, Lysander, Laser Burbank on back-to-back trap pinches, and that pretty much would have shut me out of the game regardless. I think I would have lost that game even if it played out.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it wasn't too awful of a matchup because of the stage 1s.
Yeah, we played a lot of
right into
Vibravas and Dusclops and such, but
yeah,
yeah.
kind of expected. If you get a Selgor off on a Toad, they just have to hit a Scoop Up or a Switch the following turn, which isn't hard to do in the Shaman variant with like Trump Card, and you just constantly recycle that. I think I saw him use Trump Card 3 times in game 1 or game 2 when I was over watching, like in and out of watching that match and then Aaron's match against the potential I think his name was Jose, who went on to win it, or Jorge.
Yeah, I think so. The Trevenant, yeah.
Jorge went on to win it.
I don't know. My opponent shuffled their deck so many times I lost count with Trump Card. I was like, oh, we're going again? All right, I got like 10 cards.
So overall, a top 4 finish for you gets you 35 points as opposed to 5 points from being in top 8.
Yeah, so it was a solid weekend.
All right, what does that put you at in CP in the rankings?
635 or 645, something like that.
Okay.
So I think one of my elite challenges aren't in yet.
Okay.
Yeah, at least I don't know. I don't know how everybody else did. I don't know if a bunch of people jumped up or not, but it's somewhere high up there.
I read somewhere that it's actually glitched right now, and people are getting points for no reason.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much waiting like a solid week before we do anything. And like before myself trying to look and see if anyone knocked me out of top 32, because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be breaking top 16 anytime.
Yeah. At least until nationals. So.
Yeah. So it was good overall. Good regional. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
I mean, how about you didn't play the same exact thing as me. You were on like Dragon Rayquaza for a while, and then you switched to like Manectric Bats. Like, what made you? I mean, like, you didn't want to take you said you didn't want to take the risk with Dragonite Groudon. What made you feel like Dragon Rayquaza was a safer play, and then why did you like the morning of switch to like Manectric Bats, which I was even like a little surprised with?
Yeah. So
Just like making a switch to the last minute.
Yeah. Going into it, Dragon Rayquaza seemed super steady. And what I really feared with it was Toad Garb or some kind of Silent Lab Wobbuffet thing that just slowed me down way too much. Because we were testing some games even against the Wobbuffet Groudon, and I didn't like it. I needed to like draw into an escape rope during the first 3 turns to even have a shot, and that's with them whiffing 1 turn of an energy. So first 2 turns have to get into an escape rope, and just the way the deck was built, I felt like we weren't going to get there steadily. And I saw a lot of Groudon. When we were walking around initially. And when I saw all that, I was like, alright, what can beat that? And what can have a solid chance against Toad? And me playing Manectric Bats and with like 2 Toads all throughout states, or the last 2 weeks of states, actually performed well. First 2 weeks it sucked. Me performing well with those, I was like, alright, I felt like I have a solid matchup against both of those. And you stomp Groudon with Bats. So I was just super excited to do that. And then I went on to play just like Crawdaunt Toad, I think 3 times, Kling Clang once, and then a Toadpuff another time. And I went 1-1-3. I started my first 3 rounds all with ties. And each time we tied, it was usually me in a like very dominant position. Like I'm at like 2 prizes left to his 6. I have complete board control. He has no way of winning. Time gets called, and they like play an AZ on like a damaged Toad, and the game's over. There's no way I could finish from there. And so it was extremely frustrating to play through, and then to end at 1-1-3 and feel like, oh, all right, that's my tournament. I just kind of dropped out of it.
Yeah.
And looking back, I still think I made the best call. I just think had I played more cards to compensate for Toad, it would have been an easier shot, and I didn't have to have all those ties in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah. I think that Manectric Bats was like, yeah, a solid call, like you said. But like, do you wish that you would have played like the Dragonite Groudon thing?
Yeah,
like,
definitely. After seeing what you did, 'cause we both know it was high risk, high reward. If you didn't open a Wob against a Ray deck, they kind of just bodied you, because they just exploded, and then you just have to sit there and like fodder pokes off until you get one Groudon on his tab. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you can go first and then get your switch and then get onto the Wob, I guess. That's like the only thing you're seeing.
But it's tough.
But I try not to like look back and try to have regrets, because damn, that sucked. Like going 1-1-3 with all them ties.
I think you just played against a lot of slow Toad decks, yeah, and flipped a lot of tails on Super Scoop Up and
yeah. On that note,
stuff like that.
we got Trump Card banned, which is amazing, at least in my opinion, for the upcoming nationals. Because of all these ties and all these turns that were taking forever, because people just drew through the deck, didn't care what they looked at. Juniper away, 2 other Junipers, like 3 other VS Seekers, they didn't care. They had Trump Card, so it was all coming back to them. So
yeah, pretty happy for the Trump Card fan as well. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna go on about the Trump Card ban.
Okay, yeah.
To our meta.
I mean, yeah. I think it's gonna bring like more skill back, like you said. Like people are gonna have to manage resources, stuff like that. Like a lot of times, people are just like Juniper, like crucial Pokemon or like critical trainers or like energies, and they wouldn't really get punished that hard because as long as they were able to count how many VS Seeker were left in their deck and they had at least 1 VS Seeker left, they were always safe because they could just VS Seeker the Trump Card back. Yeah. Now that's not like the case. Now if you have to Sycamore away a couple stadiums or a couple lasers or like a few energy, you have to think about that. Well, now I have like almost only exactly enough energy to win, or I'm not going to be able to win Stadium Wars if I discard these stadiums, like etc.
Yeah.
So,
which is
I think that's
what every player is going to have to be thinking about going into nationals and how they build their decks. It's going to completely change, because we're used to drawing 2 VS Seekers, Juniper, and just Junipering everything in a way. And recently, everyone's just used to playing 4 Shaman and everything. I mean, I think we saw like 4 Shaman inside a VG deck that played Plasma Badge and Chorus Machine at Georgia, and for immediate turn 1 Emerald Slashes, which actually worked out pretty well. I think he lost that on the bubble.
He made day 2.
He made day 2 too? Never mind. Dang.
Okay. I don't know. He either lost on the bubble. He was at the top table. So I'm not sure if he lost on the bubble or if he like snuck in like kind of like the lower end, like the minimum amount of.
Well, I think I saw him lose round 8 to Jose Marrero, when Jose was using Rayquaza, because Jose walked over, saw VG, and he was like, "Yeah, free win, man. Yeah, let's get it." And I was like, "All right." and I think he got bopped game 1. Because the dude
Turn
just
1
did the
Emerald
pad.
Slash
Turn
is
1 Emerald
good.
Slash, and then Jose was like, what's going on here? And then game 2 and 3, he was able to like clutch it out, and they didn't even have to do any kind of like game 3 agreement on lower prizes or upper prize or anything. Just trying to make sure someone doesn't lose out a top cut because of a tie. Yeah. So I think the trump card ban was amazing for the format. Because I gotta say, I wasn't looking forward to Nationals at all, besides hanging out with people. Because Nationals and Worlds was looking pretty grim, just because we were sitting here stuck with this like toad and coin flip format, and I had to lose to that. I had to tie that 3 times, or 2 times because the Clean Clang was a tie, and then lose to it once, just because like you just sit there and witness your opponent flipping coins the entire time. And if you got heads, I was like, all right, you just negated my entire turn, either with an energy or with a scoop up to negate the damage I just put down. And,
I just tried to joke around and keep myself focused on the game while I watched my opponent flip a lot of coins and play a lot of cards on their turn. Even if they couldn't affect Groudon, it was still a lot of mental effort just watching them shaman through their entire deck and play solitaire.
Yeah. 7-minute turn 1 games were probably the biggest factor into all these ties that came in with every single regional.
Yeah, I mean 7-minute turn 1s are still possible, but then the rest of the game is going to be very short because your opponent's deck is going to be whittled down and there's not going to be much recovery. Yeah. So it won't be a very good option, I think. I mean, like, I guess like what would you like recommend to like newer like average players kind of looking to like test a new format and figure out what's good? Like how can they like take like our like testing when like Roaring Skies just blew up and like apply that to the trump card ban in a new format? Like, what advice would you give someone?
Well, one huge thing was looking at Verbanks and everyone's opinion, or Verbank City on Facebook, and all the general community's opinion on what decks are going to be the next OP or the next overpower or like the next ridiculous deck that shouldn't be in the format anymore. Which everyone's pointing towards Flareon and Night March, because Night March obviously takes a strong hit by trump card going away. Or trump card in the format, it going away makes it amazing. And as far as Flareon goes, people were like, "Oh, there's no way to bring my damage down." But I don't think what most of the players are realizing is the resource management that comes with losing trump card in those kind of decks, those speedy, crazy decks. Where now, if you open 3 DCE and a Sycamore, you can't play it. You just gotta chill on it. And even if you try to play Shaman or anything else, you still only draw like what 3 or 4 cards because you have 3 in your hand already. So
Sky Return, alternate strategy.
Yeah, that's gonna be awful.
It's not gonna be very good.
Yeah, but new players or good players that are just trying to adjust to what's gonna happen post trump card need to follow what their peers are thinking on Verbank and see what decks they're gonna be playing against and just try to build decks that can consecutively beat the highest level one. So right now, if it can beat Night March and if it can beat Flareon, and I think some people are hyping Toad Donphan a little bit because trump card left and there's going to be less Toad in play, then if you could beat Night March, Flareon, and Donphan, then you're probably looking at a pretty good deck going into Nationals, and you're probably Spirits a day is more. Yeah.
Like that's kind of what you did with like Manectric Bats at regionals. Like in theory, you tried to beat like Groudon and Toad and stuff, and I tried to beat like Groudon, Manectric, and Toad with like the Groudon Dragonite. It's the same thought process. We thought that these decks were going to be played. We built a deck to beat them, and then we ran it, and then I ran into better matchups than like Russ ran better. Started with Wobbuffet and stuff in my case, and got to 8-1. But it's like the same thought process when a new set comes out. You see what people are hyping, then you test your deck against those decks, and if you can beat them and you predicted the metagame correctly, then you're probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
And for you, you're well known for having these rogue ideas or these out of the box decks that people aren't thinking of at the time. Like when you went to Worlds and got top 60 with Flareon, and you did it again with Dragonite Deafen, I believe last year. And people want to make their gimmicky decks work, and some do have potential and others don't. So where do you stop at the point of trying to test a particular idea? So at what point do you take this gimmicky idea and you just trash it. You're like, all right, enough of that, because you're just trying to force it instead of, taking an objective approach and being like, all right, this is really not that great of an idea.
Yeah, it's really hard because you don't want to give up on an idea too early, because a lot of people, like when we were testing Donphan for Fall Regionals, a lot of people saw Donphan Trevenant. They're like, this deck, they see it lose. They're like, Donphan is bad, and then they give up on Donphan, which was a mistake because they were just playing Donphan incorrectly.
Yeah,
but
I think
at a certain point,
I hit you up over Facebook. I was like, no, Donphan's so good.
Yeah, I never even tested like Donphan Trevenant, but I was just like, people were telling me Donphan was bad, so I was like, all right, I'll get around to that maybe. But then Russ was like, this is good, and then we made a list and everything. But at a certain point, you do have to give up, I guess. And I mean, even an example of that was this weekend, like hyping, going to Russ's house to Virginia Beach. Like I was carpooling with one of his friends in Maryland, and from Maryland to Virginia Beach, I think he said, every 15 minutes I mentioned Wailord because I was so hyped on Gengar Trevenant Wailord. I was like, I wanted Gengar Trevenant to be a deck so bad. It was hit and run, just like Donphan. It had a terrible Manectric matchup though, and we predicted Manectric, so we weren't willing to lose to Manectric. So we were like, all right, we need a wall to handle Manectric. So we were like, Wailord, use their own Ruxies against them, like Russ and me mentioned at the beginning of the video. And then after hyping it for the day before, like 3 hours in the car, building it, we tested 2 games and we were like, this is terrible. And we had like tested Gengar Trevenant variants like so much online, and we were like, all right, like regionals is like tomorrow or like in like a day and a half. We should give up on this and build a new deck, because like the tournament's coming up, you can't beat like a matchup that you expect to be popular. You've gone through like the entire card pool like 3 times, then it's usually, and the matchup is still seeming pretty hopeless. If you're not willing to take an auto loss to that matchup, you just have to move on.
Yeah, there really is nothing from what we saw. We tried so many ideas.
Yeah.
It all just
it sucked. So then we moved on to a new deal, and then like Dragonite Groudon, like we had played around with Groudon before, and the theory was sound. We just kind of like theory it out a lot, and then like the theory is good, then we test it, and then it's just usually whether you can get all of the cards into play, and it works as good as it does on paper. But like you really have to think about it. You can't just like jam random cards together and then hope it works. You have to be like, all right, well, what if I play against this deck? What if I play against that deck? And basically like what me and Russ do at least is we kind of like make like a list of decks that we expect to be popular, decks that we're not willing to lose to, and then we think about how our like rogue deck, I guess, would fare against all of them. And then if it doesn't fare well, then we need to add another card or we need to dismiss this idea. And then if we think that it could handle everything, we test it, and etc. I guess that's how the thought process that we go about when to give up on it. And then obviously keep going with it when it shows promise.
Yeah.
So.
And then we also like to go off of our own personal testing instead of what we hear. Because sometimes we hear like good testing, and then other times, friends that test that or test this, I kind of dismiss them until I get to see it firsthand look horrible. Because there's been so many times people tell me Dragon Rayquaza was garbage. I didn't like it at all. And then when I was playtesting with it, loved it. But
their lists were just very different.
Yeah, couldn't pull the trigger. Couldn't pull the trigger last second though, and then got punished for it. Doing horrible at that regionals.
I mean, do you regret like looking around and being like you seeing a few Groudon decks and then being like, oh man, everybody's gonna play Groudon, even though Groudon had a presence, it wasn't that popular.
I really did, because all last year I just had the mindset I was like, all right, we're going Flygon. Everyone's getting bodied. I don't care what you're playing. Flygon just felt so great. Every single matchup felt fine. And going into this one, I kind of still wanted to look around because I had both Manectric and Dragon Ray on my mind. I think more than likely going into next year and next season, I wanted to just stop looking around and stop trying to scout. Just like go with what we think, what our gut tells us, and just play the deck. Because every time I've done that, everything seems to work out a lot better for me. And the entire time I didn't even play a single Groudon during Swiss, even though I'm pretty sure Groudon was like good 30-35% of the field.
I don't think so. It wasn't that much of the top table.
Because you were the top tables. You were the top tables. I'm over here like looking mid-table. There was like one point where Christian Ortiz had like 9 energy on one Groudon, and he was going against a Groudon dude, and he had a Wobbuffet active, and he was just waiting for Wild to die, and then Groudon was just gonna sweep the dude the rest of the game. So.
I don't know. I felt like there was enough where you'd face 1 or 2 during the event, and Dragon Rayquaza was like good enough where you could probably steal 1 game off of it because they weren't all Dragonite Groudon.
Yeah,
but
possibly. Like I said, I couldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough seeing a deck and being scared to play it and like not switching. I agree. I used to do. I think at like local events, it's like worth it to maybe
Yeah,
like scout
because you
if
don't really
people,
care. Yeah. Yeah.
because it's only like 20 people. So it's like if 3 out of 20 people are playing this deck, then it's like a significant portion. But if like 3 out of 300 people are playing a deck, it's not so much to worry about.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, so I stopped like years like a while ago, like when it comes to like regionals and states, like I have my deck at least the morning of, at least when I wake up. Like by the time I arrive at the venue, I know what I'm gonna play. But like the night before I'm still scrambling just because I'm testing everything. But once I show up, like what I see isn't really gonna influence my deck choice.
Yeah. And that works for some people. Like, how many friends have you had like 8 a.m.? Like, I don't know what I'm playing. I got 3 deck lists put together. I'm just gonna pick one, that kind of thing. And they still
But I
end up,
mean,
they still end up doing well. But for the general community, I've never seen someone like go in just winging it and then came out on top. Besides Frank with like Yveltal or something like that. He just didn't care.
but I think that just because he had so much experience with Yveltal, he's like, yeah, I'll wing it, I'll change these cards. But like when you play a deck so much, you can just kind of like in theory, like know like, oh, I changed this card and it's gonna help with this match if I change this. Like if you show
Yeah.
up with 3 deck lists and you've tested all of them extensively, it's really good. But
Yeah.
if you're just kind of like, I kind of sort of tested all these, I'll just pick one.
Yeah. Or you heard this one from a buddy, and then he told you it
Yeah,
was broken, but you trust his opinion because he's a good player or he's like a good friend. So you're like, oh, well then,
I mean,
I don't know
your
what I'm
faith
doing now. Yeah.
your faith is in his hands if his testing was solid or not.
All right. Did you have anything else you want to add on your regionals or the upcoming trump card ban?
I mean, no, that was pretty it. I mean, we're planning to like interview some other good players on like their opinion and stuff too. Other
Okay.
regionals, their trump card bands. So,
Yeah.
but that's I think that's all my thoughts.
Okay.
How about you? Or
No, I mean it should be all. My regionals sucked. I did horrible. And then trump card getting banned. I'm loving it. Some people think Toad's still gonna be played. I don't know. I kind of want to see stage 2s make a huge comeback. I miss Empoleon. I miss Dusknoir. I miss Flygon. I just want to see cool things happen. And I also want to see decks like Latios and Gallade break away and be able to be played because Toad held them back so much before. And now either Toad still beats them, which it probably does, or so many people have given up on Toad and it's just so unattractive to play that, you know, you can dodge the one or two Toads the entire tournament and then run through it with this the new rogue ideas. But
I mean, I think the Cycle Toad deck like died down, but I still see some Seismitoad, high fiving Garbodor on Burbank. So I feel like
yeah, I still think that's gonna come back. Shaman flew away. He's gonna take a rest.
Yeah, maybe just like just replace Jirachi or something like that. We'll see. We'll have to see. But Seismitoad's not dead, but it's not going to be as insane cycling through your deck and playing 12 hammers as before.
Yeah. Is there anything else we wanted to bring up concerning our content? Because I know we mentioned the deck list we're going to have to critique different players' deck lists. And we're probably going to end up doing that together. We're going to have our own Gmail set up as well as like our own like Twitter. I guess you can just PM us, Dylan or myself, or the name of the show that we're going to have, or our YouTube channel if we actually settle on it. And then we're going to just start doing our weekly chats with either each other or a bunch of big name players or, you know, players that are up and coming and being really, really good. And then we're also going to have a couple videos where we're going to take an old idea that was pre-format, pre-trump card, and what we would add, take out and adjust accordingly in order to play it at nationals. Because I know that's all everyone has on their mind right now. Unless you already have your Worlds points and you're really chilling in top 16, which is like what, 4 people, and then like, you know, you're pretty much solidified to stay at top 16 going into World for that day 1 bye. But the general community wants to work their way.
I'm still scared I might get passed. I still want to get a couple more points.
I mean, it'd be super weird. Like someone has to, you know, they all have to make top 8. It has to be like 3 or 4 of them get 300 points and then pass you by what, like 50 or 100? Because you still have your Worlds points from last year that's gonna get factored into that. So
yeah, only like 50 if they get factored in. Yeah, but I don't know. I still wanna do well at nationals regardless, and still want a few more points to be safe. So I'll probably go to like 1 or 2 more league challenges.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but hopefully you could lock your invite up too if you're day 2 invite at nationals.
My day two bye. I'm not.
Yeah, your day 1 bye. Yeah, day 1 bye. Day 2 invite. Whatever you
Oh
want.
yeah, I forgot you. Now that you have your regionals top 2, you get a 2-round bye at nationals. I only get 1 round. Oh,
yeah, I'll be chilling.
you can dodge the first 2 rounds of Kling Kling and all of all the angry people who are just so happy that Toad left. All right. Do you have anything else? I think we should be good.
Nah. Yeah, I think we're good. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed our content and look forward to more videos. So
yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.